Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's your boy Football Talk. Today, I got for you guys the most miserable franchise in NFL history. It's a couple that's coming to mind right now. But this one is about the Cleveland Browns. Alright, little spoiler alert. This one's about the Cleveland Browns. This is a hour long video, so not gonna do too much talking. Let's just get into it. Shout out to KO Productions, by the way. Nah, this intro's pure cinema. Oh my god, I feel like I'm watching an old school movie.
Myles Garrett was talking to people about what their life is like with their teams. You guys are trying to win up there, you think? Yeah, I think so. You're trying to make the what? Super Bowl? Yeah. I want to do that. Get me the hell out of here!
I don't feel like our future is aligned with winning, and that's what I'm looking forward to do at this state of my career.
For over a month, we've been
Money
working on
talk.
this video with the assumption that Myles Garrett was leaving Cleveland.
It's always for me been about winning Lombardis, and we haven't had the opportunity to do that, and that's all I'm asking for.
But like they say, money talks. Regardless of the plot twist in the
I
story,
literally just
the
said
contents
that.
of this video are still valid. In the 8 seasons Myles has been in Cleveland, we've seen just about everything that makes up one of the most chaotic tenures ever. As a Browns fan, you constantly think to yourself, this can't possibly get any worse. Yet, the Browns have this uncanny knack for finding new depths of misery.
And that's a skill.
Baker Mayfield, garbage. Play calling, garbage. Odell, I'm taking you out my lineup, bro.
As the great John Boyce once said, the Browns live in hell. A franchise so incompetent, you sometimes wonder if they simply exist to be the NFL's punching bag.
You are a factory of sadness!
Over a year ago, I took a deep dive into the Hugh Jackson era and just how miserable it was. This video is sort of a continuation of that storyline, with a bit of an overlap and a change in focus away from Hugh Jackson and
Did I
more
watch
onto the
that?
team as a whole, with some emphasis on Myles Garrett's perspective. We will look into the franchise's shocking rise and fall from 2017 to now.
The Cleveland Browns are
This is
definitely
how
one of
the
those
Cleveland
teams
Browns
like that
failed
you
the
play
greatest
on senior
talent
night,
of my lifetime.
because you know that's gonna be an easy win.
Some things in life make sense. That is not one of them.
What motivates me?
Myles Garrett, defensive end, Texas A&M.
I know that I want to be the best because that's all I know.
The way he bends the corner. If you don't have a perfect game against Miles, it's going to be a long game.
Myles Garrett suspended indefinitely for the remainder of the regular
This was
season.
absolutely
That's gonna
crazy.
go unnoticed.
Defensive Player of the Year, Myles Garrett.
Well deserved.
Deshaun Watson is expected to be a Cleveland Brown.
It looks like the team's
We all know why Deshaun didn't play well.
Sucks.
To get the ball to Judy. Watson just stumbled, and now Watson is hurt. Oh boy.
And as fans, to boo anyone and their downfall.
Yeah, that was crazy. I remember hearing about that one. Basically the fans, the Cleveland Browns fans, booed him while Deshaun was on the cart.
Let's give a bit of background to set the stage. In 2015, the Browns went 3-13, fired head coach Mike Pettin, and hired Hugh Jackson to come try and save the franchise.
And they got
In
worse.
2016, the Browns finished with the fewest wins in the NFL. A single measly victory kept them from going 0-16. Although, once you look at their
Who
roster
did they beat?
breakdown, things begin to make sense. The team's front office had instituted an aggressive analytics approach that focused on acquiring future draft picks over current victories, otherwise unofficially known as tanking. Hugh Jackson had suffered through the rough season at the forefront of the negative attention, which I previously argued was largely out of his control due to the roster he was given, and the fact that he had to coach with a staggering 6 different players at quarterback. After 2016, Hugh made a promise that people wouldn't forget.
No, I'm not. I'm not going 1-15. No. Well, I'll be swimming in the lake over there somewhere. So that's not happening.
With a roster full of holes, the
Sure about that, buddy?
2017 NFL draft provided the first real chance
You
for
sure about
Cleveland
that?
to establish a new era. They held the rights to the #1 overall pick. No one really knows what was said within the confines of the Browns front office.
They didn't even
as there
deserve
is
that #1
conflicting
overall
information
pick.
out there. But the decision of what to do with the #1
Just
pick
Cleveland Browns
really
as a
came down to
franchise
two
don't
different
deserve a
choices.
pick in the
Either
draft.
A, you draft your favorite quarterback prospect, or B, draft the best talent available, which in this draft was the type of talent that only comes around once in a generation.
Facts.
But before we take a look at that, this video is sponsored by SeatGeek. Even though it's the off-season for the NFL, now's
Shout
an
out to
exciting
this.
time for the sports world. You got the
Shout
college
out to
basketball.
them.
SeatGeek. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app.
Texas A&M had 9 performers at the scouting combine. They came out to work at the pro day, and of course, star of the day was Myles Garrett. Now, I expected him to rest on what he had done at the combine, but he came out and ran a 40 and did a long jump. I asked him why. He said, because I didn't get my best one at the combine. I wanted to show the scouts. He ran 4.6 and then called it a day. And if
Look
he's
at
not
that,
the
a
first pick of the draft, folks, I
4.6.
really don't know who is.
At first
4.6.
glance, Texas A&M's Myles Garrett looked like he was built in a lab. And when people turned on the
He
tape,
absolutely
they
was.
quickly
There's no
realized
question.
what all the hype was about.
Sean White, you got to know. Look, the right defense.
He got the haircut like them 70 movies.
Garrett's terrifying speed and explosiveness resembled that of a quick, undersized linebacker. The obvious difference was that this dude was 6'4" and 270 pounds.
He was 270 coming in the draft. God damn.
But I'm still a little hesitant. Even if he's a Hall of Famer, how much is better is he going to make the Browns compared to a quarterback? Number 2, I talked to some defensive backs on Sunday. I'll tell you, opponents love Deshaun Watson. They see the way he plays. They see his competitiveness. They see his leadership. All these guys, including guys from Alabama, there's something about Deshaun Watson.
Deshaun Watson had become a hero at Clemson after leading them to a national championship victory.
He was one of my
over
favorite players
Alabama.
entering the draft.
On Deshaun Watson,
I gotta admit.
Michael Jordan. I mean, I'm just telling you.
Not only was Watson a winner, but he had been a great leader. By all accounts, he was a better person than he was a football player. And he was a damn good football player. It's hard to pass up on a quarterback talent like this guy. And Cleveland did want him. From Watson himself, Hugh Jackson had texted him on draft night to be ready. Also, it is worth mentioning that the Browns were considering Mitch Trubisky as well. But ultimately, the Browns went with Myles Garrett.
Imagine the coach telling you to be
He
ready.
was going to be the #1 pick. He was the best player on the board.
And that's
hats off
just
to Myles.
crazy.
This pick appeared to be a solid foundational piece of their future, but this still left the quarterback question on the table.
Now, even though the Browns did go with Myles Garrett #1, they also had the 12th overall pick, which could have been used for Deshaun Watson.
They had the
But they
12th?
elected to trade the pick to Houston, and the Texans went on to select Watson, while the Browns ended up selecting Jabril Peppers and David Njoku later in the first
Now
round.
Njoku,
By the end
we
of the
all
first
know,
round,
a
all
Pro
the
Bowler,
highest-rated quarterbacks
all
were
that.
gone, which left the Browns at the top of the second round selecting DeShone Kizer. Kizer, whose own college coach said that he wasn't ready, had the type of talent to
I
be a
remember
first-round
this.
quarterback, but was really rough around
I
the edges,
remember
and at the
him.
very least would need probably a few
He
years
was
to
a
mark, But you
manager.
wouldn't get that in Cleveland.
He needs more football. He needs more.
From a
Yeah.
casual observer from the sideline, he seems
Brian
to
Kelly gonna tell you
run
he is,
pretty
though.
well, so I'm excited to watch him on Sunday.
Watch all day long. Robbie Anderson motions, and on 3rd down, pressure, and they get him. There he is. First
Like
play
a missile.
If you put this play in slow motion from this angle, you can see just how fast Myles jumps to his
Guys,
left.
even in
Which
slow
Myles
motion, it's
could
not even
barely
slow
get a hand
enough.
on him. For a first play, this is about as good as it gets. He tallied another sack in that game, and afterwards,
I mean, this is
received
Jets,
praise
but
from coaches and teammates.
even in
I've seen
slow
guys
motion,
that
this
have
looks
really
fast.
done very well, but nobody has ever been close to what Garrett can do. I mean, he can basically run full speed and take a 90-degree turn to his left or his right.
But despite
And
his
that
great
is scary.
debut and an incredible rookie season, the Browns kept losing.
pretty clear about the fact Antonio Brown will use the
blocked into the end zone. Second and goal. Kaiser, good protection over the middle, intercepted.
Pressure coming. Brissett gets it away. Wide open Hilton at the 50. Inside the 40 and the cutback.
20. They're feeling confident offensively. Underneath pass. This is Bernard. Plenty of daylight.
Browns on third and goal.
Where was the def? Oh, Marco.
Could have made a case for Bill O'Brien calling a timeout before that play. Instead, it's picked. Former Super Bowl champion with New England. Kaiser on a bootleg pass, and that pass is picked out of the air. Field is Cleveland. Gives to Crowell. Lost the football. Covered by the Vikings. The extra down, and they were just trying to get that straightened out. Second and goal. They're going to lunge for this here. Now they can't stop the clock, and I don't think they're going to be able to get this ball off. They're not going to be able to. Play action. Kaiser over the middle. Intercepted. Kaiser, it's dropped. Kaiser. Pump fakes. Here comes Bosa. Football is loose.
Oh, brother, get this off my screen.
Third and 2. And now Kaiser in trouble. Is looking around. The ball is batted into the air. And it is. Kaiser pumps to the right, rolls to the left, throws to the back of the end zone. Intercepted. Successful conversions on fourth down. Here comes Kwiatkowski. And the pass is intercepted by Callahan.
Corey Coleman in the backfield. Kaiser under pressure. Somehow escapes. Kaiser's pass is incomplete. And that one goes right through your hands.
You got, oh my.
First rounder Corey Coleman. This cemented the worst two-season run in league history. Let me briefly
1-31
Cleveland Browns football at this point in time. Number 1, the Browns became the second franchise ever to finish 0-16 in a season. This
and
came
they
along
made
with
that
some
Detroit
other
team
shockingly
look
bad
like
stats, like how the Browns had
a
lost
godsend
50
type
of
team.
55 games dating back to 2014. With the Bills making the playoffs in 2017, Cleveland now possessed the longest playoff drought of any franchise. Number 2, DeShone Kizer, the project quarterback who needed tons of time to develop, was thrown to the wolves.
If you're a college
Not only
coach
did Kizer lead
tells
the
you
league
that
in
before the
receptions,
draft,
but tack on his 6 fumbles lost,
and y'all
with
still
a
draft him,
woeful
y'all
lack of
deserve this.
production.
It's a tough spot to be in. I'm a winless quarterback in this league.
DeShone Kizer was traded following the season, and as the Browns had suffered through yet another catastrophic failure at quarterback, the one they could have drafted was balling out. Early in the regular season, Deshaun Watson had taken the league by storm. He produced 5 touchdowns in a blowout win over the Titans, and then again had 5 touchdowns the following week. These just so happened to be his 2 performances prior to playing the Browns. And against Cleveland, the difference in quarterback play was staggering. While Watson looked like a Pro Bowl veteran, Cleveland's quarterback that day, Kevin Hogan, looked like he didn't belong, producing a horrendous 38.1
Why he built
rating
like a
and
kicker?
3 interceptions in a game where the Browns were completely overmatched. And if Browns fans weren't miserable enough, the following week, Watson put together a 400-yard, 4-touchdown performance. Unfortunately for Watson, he later suffered a torn ACL ending his rookie season. But what he had proven on the field was substantial. And he
Damn, that was
continued
his
to
rookie
cement
year?
his NFL legacy once he was healthy. For Myles Garrett, this was a promising start to his career, but the franchise had reached an all-time low. The fans held a parade to wallow in their misery, Hugh Jackson jumped in Lake Erie, and the legendary Joe
Look how happy
Thomas
he is.
decided to call it a career. With how poorly things had gone, the team cut ties with one of the main voices behind the analytics approach to roster building, Sashi Brown. And for the 2018 season, owner Jimmy Haslam decided to go in a different direction at GM.
As I mentioned earlier, he's already spent time with the team this morning, so it's now my pleasure to introduce the GM of the Cleveland Browns, John Dorsey. John?
Thank you, Jimmy. It's my pleasure to be here. I just want to thank Dee and Jimmy for allowing me to, you know what, let's reawake this sleeping giant, the Cleveland Browns. I'm kind of excited about that.
Since when was the
John
Cleveland
Dorsey
Browns
had
a
a
giant?
great reputation for finding talent throughout his career. He spent 11 seasons as the director of college scouting in Green Bay and was credited in helping them choose players such as Aaron Rodgers, Clay Matthews, and Greg Jennings. As the GM of the Chiefs, along with Andy Reid, made excellent moves that helped them turn into a playoff contender after previously being one of the worst teams in the NFL. This included moves like trading for Alex Smith and drafting Travis Kelce, amongst others. Dorsey also drafted Patrick Mahomes, although Mahomes hadn't played much to that point. But looking back retrospectively, this shows that Dorsey knew how to find talent. However, he and the Chiefs parted ways.
They were talking
Damn
about
good
a
job
contract
at it.
extension, and I think it's clear those talks fell apart. You heard that maybe ownership was aggravated about some of the cap trouble resulting from the delays in getting deals done for like Eric Berry and Justin Houston.
As great a scout as Dorsey was, he had a management style that rubbed people the wrong way and reportedly didn't handle contract negotiations well. I'll read this quote from Reddit. Quote, "The way he handled cutting Jeremy Maclin was the last straw. Cutting Maclin wasn't the issue. It was the calloused way he did it that was the issue. Dude cut Jeremy Maclin by voicemail on the day he got married, while Andy Reid
Oh,
was in
is
attendance for
that?
the wedding.
Wait a minute.
So Dorsey
What? Is this story? I've heard of this story right here, but I did not know like who it was. Wow. Imagine getting a phone call that you're fired on your wedding day. I'm kicking the owner's ass. That's all I gotta say.
But the Browns clearly needed to acquire talent and fast, which made Dorsey the ideal candidate. He also became immediately popular in Cleveland, to the point where fans were dressing like him.
John Dorsey, how do we look?
Well, I tell you what, you look a little undersized.
I even got myself a John Dorsey sweatshirt.
How many do you have?
7.
Because there was an excitement building in Cleveland. This was due to the moves that he would make during the 2018 offseason. On March 14th, 2018, John Dorsey made some noise. 9 players were either acquired in free agency or traded for, headlined by veteran quarterback Tyrod Taylor and, most of all, Jarvis Landry.
Oh,
Since
that
the
was
Browns had returned to
2018?
Cleveland in 1999, they had just 2 receivers make a Pro Bowl, and Jarvis Landry had.
I was born in '99.
And although they had
God
traded for Tyrod
damn.
Taylor, there was no doubt the Browns were going to draft a quarterback with the upcoming #1 pick.
With the first pick in the 2018 NFL Draft,
Baker
the
Mayfield.
Cleveland Browns select Baker Mayfield. Wow. Oklahoma.
Of the 5 major quarterback prospects, Baker Mayfield certainly wasn't the most gifted or even had the most potential. However, he was accurate, decisive, made plays out of the pocket constantly, and most importantly, was a well-liked, confident leader. He had that moxie and confidence that
Very
was
much so.
infectious to his teammates. And when trying to turn around a losing franchise,
I wasn't a
that's the
huge
exact
fan
type
of
guy
Baker
you need.
coming into the league, but I respect him.
To the game, you know this guy's got a little bit of it factor. So we as an organization are very excited to have a player like this.
3 picks after taking Baker, the Browns selected Denzel Ward, who was regarded as one of the premier corners of the class.
Yeah.
Bird's eye view inside the Browns organization due to Hard Knocks, which gave us moments like Baker acting like John Dorsey, watching the coaches go back and forth in the coaching office, and Jarvis Landry inspiring the receiver room.
If you can practice, practice. Ain't nobody gonna get better by being on the sideline if you ain't hurt.
2018 was beginning to rejuvenate the fans with all the media attention. However, they
That's
still
facts.
had to win games.
All right, you guys, they're called Victory Fridges, okay?
Yes.
Bud Light installing Victory Fridges in Cleveland. Ben, you were just in Cleveland. They're going to be in all
Yes.
Cleveland bars.
This
they
is
kind of look like this. Here's
embarrassment.
the deal. When the Browns win a game, fans will get a free beer. Here's the catch, though. Everyone's making the same joke. They never win.
It ain't never gonna be open.
Field. The Browns used a timeout. They have 1 timeout left. They're about to get it back, and we are about to see the
You get free beer if your team wins one game.
with Landry back to field the punt inside the 45, and the crowd reacts to the emergence of Baker Mayfield off the bench.
Well, this is Baker's first game. Oh, okay. Can't see, man.
I said, "Are you ready to go tonight?" He said, "I am ready to go if called upon." And this is going to be a fun drive right here, a fun second half.
They saw the ball come out of his hand throwing it, and the way his teammates and the staff reacted to him on his pro day at OU. Heisman Trophy winner, former walk-on, finds Landry. This is when he's at his best, playing up tempo. Mayfield fires, pass is caught.
Oh, what a catch. Oh, my goodness. What a catch by Landry. I remember this one right here. They actually won a game. And 635 days.
In that dramatic comeback win, a star
And it was a comeback win
Bud Light fridges were
against the
unlocked, and the
Jets.
city of Cleveland celebrated like they had won the Super Bowl. The excitement for Baker
Oh,
Mayfield
so the
and
Cowboy
his revived
fans.
football team was palpable, but the Browns continued to struggle to win games. After starting the season 2-5-1, John Dorsey fired Hugh Jackson, which capped off his head coaching career with a staggering record of 3 wins, 36 losses, and 1 tie. As I previously put it, it's the most miserable
At this
coaching
point, that
tenure
one tie
in
should be
NFL
just
history.
37
Now,
losses.
this firing felt like a real turning point in the organization. Hugh was painted as the ultimate villain and the reason for all Browns fans suffering. Was it all his fault that the Browns were losing? Well, it sure gave fans fuel for the argument.
Wasn't all his fault, but it was a large part.
The team began to rattle off victory after victory, and Hugh Jackson in
Yeah,
the
they
wake of his
balled out
firing,
after
joined their rival
they let
Cincinnati,
Hugo.
who the Browns played twice. Both times, the Browns came out on top. From the Hugh Jackson Bengals moments to Baker Mayfield waking up feeling dangerous,
And when I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
the 2018
Baker waking up
season
feeling
had been a roller coaster.
Don't
Every
you
Browns
wink at
fan
me.
was thrilled to ride.
What a ride it has
Oh,
been
Joe.
this season, and I don't think any of us could feel better about where this team is headed.
There's a
in the
Ravens
future.
marching
John
band.
Dorsey was immediately anointed the savior of Cleveland. Baker Mayfield had set the rookie record for touchdown passes. Denzel Ward was spectacular and
Damn.
earned Pro Bowl honors as a rookie. Jarvis Landry was a significant piece
Yeah,
of the
Landry
pass game and played
balled
an important leadership
out.
role. Myles Garrett had officially established himself as one of the best edge rushers in the game. He finished half a sack shy of the franchise record. And overall, the Browns finished with their most
I did not
successful
know that.
season in over a decade. Also, there was another player who made a big impact.
University there on that first kick.
Oh, my boy Nick Chubb. An absolute unit. Look at that. I could not stand that field. It was a look really for me. You guys do not know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Raiders' old football field. Well,
Nick
baseball
Chubb went from
field
being
turned to a football
unrecognized
field.
at the airport to finishing 7th in the NFL in yards per carry with over 5 yards a rush. Now, Baker might have gotten all the hype, and Myles Garrett was the most talented, but Nick Chubb, man, this dude became the heart and soul of Cleveland football. This video is going to continue to get real chaotic and noisy, but it's an important point to remember that Nick Chubb remained a constant throughout this time. Quiet, calm, never celebrated
His
outside of doing
consistency
the airplane that one time,
was
and simply just
crazy.
did his job. Oh, and by his
First running
job,
back.
I mean to say that he became the only running back in NFL history to average over 5 yards a carry in each of his first 4 seasons. You're not going to hear too many fans hating on Nick Chubb. No player is more.
I mean, why would you? He just sits,
Just had to say
be
this
quiet,
because, like I
and
said,
plays
things are
football.
about to get crazy again because John Dorsey's wild moves had only just begun.
Odell?
Browns got Odell Beckham.
Are you shitting me? Odell Beckham Jr. is a Cleveland Brown.
Yeah, this was crazy when it first got announced.
And the Browns have accumulated so much talent that people are now going to talk about them as a threat to win the AFC North and compete to even get to the AFC Championship game.
Usually 99% of these things that you plan for don't pan out, but this happened to be one of those 1% that actually, came to reality.
This is crazy. I'm like in complete shock right now.
This trade simply broke the NFL world. With social media becoming such a big part
Definitely
of the way we
did.
consumed the world, nobody was bigger in football than Odell Beckham Jr.
Even to this day, he's the most popular NFL player on
Damn,
Instagram,
still to
and
this day,
it's not even
17.
close. John Dorsey
Yeah!
in full force.
All he has done is make bold decisions with his spine and his brain.
Travis
and
Kelce
say,
at number
"I'm
2
here
on,
to win."
with
Moves that John Dorsey has been
6.5.
able to make in just a couple years as a general manager, just flipping that entire organization is just jaw-dropping.
This man had taken the ashes of that 0-16 dumpster fire and made
Let's not
them
show
into
Hugh no
one of
more.
the most exciting and thrilling hype teams in recent memory.
Yeah, the hype was absolutely through the roof.
What wins Super Bowls? We talk about talent. The Browns.
Why not? Once you get to that point, anything can happen. I think the Browns should be right in it.
The Browns are a Super Bowl contender.
Oh, please.
Pretty obviously.
To get a gauge of what the times were like, this was one of the most liked comments on the First Take video from 2019. Quote, Cleveland Browns are the new America's team. It's not often that one of the best players in the NFL becomes available, but there were multiple reasons.
I mean, that's better than the Cowboys being America's team. Still don't know how that still is the thing.
Quote, there is an Odell-ness to Odell Beckham Jr., and after 5 years, it eventually ran its course for the Giants. Some inside the building feel a sense of relief that a superstar receiver will no longer bring unwanted attention to a franchise that did not necessarily grow sick of him, but grew increasingly exhausted, trying to keep up with the issues and notoriety that clung to him the way the football stuck to his huge right hand. Beckham was a solo artist, gifted, but self-absorbed. There are no fence-sitters with Beckham, and his exit is a curse or a blessing, depending on your Odell meter. Well, it was clear where John Dorsey stood on this dilemma.
You can't have enough passionate, competitive guys on your football team. And here's a guy that shows up.
I've never heard of
football, his teammates
Odell-ness
love him.
before.
That speaks
That's
volumes when
new.
your teammates begin to rave about you, because that shows the mark of who this person really is.
The Browns have become one of the main focal points in the entire league. And with so much pressure, so many loud and expressive personalities to deal with in the locker room, who did John Dorsey hire as head coach to handle all this?
It's my pleasure to introduce the 17th head coach of the Cleveland Browns, Freddie Kitchens.
Good old Freddie Kitchens.
For all those kind remarks. Hopefully everybody agrees with you.
Freddie Kitchens, the man who gives the vibe of a good old boy from Alabama, has been credited with sparking the Browns' offense throughout the
Not a good old boy from Alabama.
where he
Not a
served
good
as
old
the
boy.
team's interim offensive coordinator and play caller. Despite the success, this head coaching decision
Wow.
is pretty peculiar. Kitchens had
Just
not
went
only
right
never
there,
been a
huh?
head coach at any level, but outside of that half a season stretch in 2018, he had never even been a coordinator. He had been an NFL position coach since 2006. In 2018, he began the season as the Browns running backs coach. Then, 1 year later, he was a head coach. In
That
an
is
unprecedented leap
crazy.
by NFL standards. On one side,
What?
this was a dubious move.
I gotta know his interview process. What did he say?
I mean, this is classic Cleveland. You give them a little 3-game winning streak. They're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, we gotta hire this guy. I don't think he's ever been a high school head coach.
On the other,
Doesn't it sound like another team that they call America's
maybe making the
team?
new franchise
Just
quarterback
saying.
happy should be priority number one.
What has Freddie Kitchens' game plan done for you guys as an offense?
Just making us comfortable. You know, I think the way that we communicate about it, or the way that we talk about, if we don't like something, we're not going to run it.
So, how did things turn out?
As Odell says to Sports Illustrated, this wasn't no business move. This was personal. They thought they'd send me here to die. I mean, that's heavy. That's heavy that he would say something like that.
Damn.
He knows the Giants received better offers for him in this story.
Really?
But still chose to send him to Cleveland, and he believes it was out of spite. It's almost like a backhand towards Cleveland, isn't it, in a way, from him? Like, does he sound like he's thrilled to be in Cleveland? He actually doesn't.
It was a game we've been anticipating for a long, long time. Unfortunately, it became a game we want to forget immediately.
On the far side.
I've never seen so much hype for a Cleveland Browns team.
Again, they come after Mayfield. He's lost.
Damn, this is against
Browns losing
Tennessee?
their season opener 43-13.
Opening day was a bad omen. It was flat out
43-13.
I'm gonna tell you again, man. They were who we thought they were. Y'all can crown them if you want to crown them. Still got to play football.
The offensive line
Facts. Still gotta play football. Still gotta put them pads on. Get to work.
Penalties. I mean, all day.
The next 3 weeks,
I mean, it's
saw the Browns
43 to
scratch
13. I
and
don't know how
claw
many
to a
penalties
2-2
you.
record, which included Baker connecting with OBJ on a long touchdown versus the Jets on Thursday Night Football. Sitting at 2-2, sadly, this was
Another
about as good as
team.
the 2019 season got for the Browns.
Cleveland Browns
God awful
have lost
Jets.
4 straight games. They lost a game to the Denver Broncos, who are starting a quarterback who had to stretch his hands to impress NFL scouts when he was at Arkansas. And that's where the Cleveland Browns are right now.
During this 4-game losing streak, I traveled to see them play the Niners and
What?
the Broncos. And I wish I
Why
had.
why you travel,
Cleveland did
my
find
boy?
their way to get back to winning. First, they defeated Buffalo, and then they got a much-needed victory over their rival Pittsburgh. In the final seconds of that game, things finally looked headed in the right direction. But then, this happened.
He'll be the AFC Defensive Player of the Week. You're giving it to him right now. I am. There's a flag as...
Everybody remember this one right here.
It's inexcusable. You know, I don't care, rivalry or not.
That is still hard to watch.
Miles is embarrassed. It's not good.
You snatch a guy's helmet off, and you take said helmet and hit the guy in the head. I believe at the bare minimum, he's gone for the rest of the season.
The strike of the helmet
Lucky
to
he
Mason
ain't
Rudolph's
arrested.
head instantly became one of the most shocking in-game moments any of us
This
had ever
this
seen.
was
Myles Garrett
absolutely
had been on a tear that
crazy.
season.
I've never
At one
seen that
point,
before.
He was on pace to break the all-time single-season sack record and was probably the front-runner to win Defensive Player of the Year. But with this moment, it was all over. Not only his season, but his reputation, at least in the short term. Later on, Myles claimed in an ESPN interview that Mason Rudolph called him a racial slur.
I mean, he called me the N-word. He called me a stupid N-word.
There was immediate backlash from the public. Many people didn't believe Myles when he said this, and in some ways, it hurt his
Hold on. Wait a minute. You mean to tell me you took a man helmet off and overhead hit him over the head with it, which could have caused him to black out or even death because he supposedly called you the N-word? That was the excuse? Okay.
reputation even more. Whether Rudolph called him the N-word or not, and even if Mason Rudolph is the one who started it by trying to rip off Myles' helmet, Myles still used the helmet as a weapon and swung it at his head.
Facts.
With the suspension, this pretty much killed any momentum the Browns season had. Their best player
That
was gone
seriously,
for the year.
like,
Even when the
could
Browns
have
won in
that
2019,
that
they
can fuck him up for
The
life.
Browns,
He could still be
beginning the
going
year
through stuff
hailed
because
as
of that.
Super Bowl contenders finished the season with an abysmal 6-10 record. That alone was embarrassing, but all the drama surrounding the team made it much worse. OBJ had put up the worst per-game numbers of his career, and other than his play, here was his most notable moments year one in Cleveland. There was a constant issue with the dress code related to Odell.
Odell Beckham Jr. talked about it after the game last night, that the NFL told him and Jarvis Landry that their shoes were non-conforming and they had to go change their shoes if they wanted, or they wouldn't be allowed to play in the second half.
He told other teams to come get him.
They played the 49ers, Seahawks, and Patriots in October. That Beckham said to opposing players, "Come get me," meaning that he was hoping it would happen before the 2019 trade deadline.
He also had the verbal spat with Freddie Kitchens on the sidelines. And there were trade rumors that popped up at one point. For the rest of the Browns offense, outside of Jarvis Landry and Nick Chubb, they were a disaster. Baker had regressed, which was alarming considering the talent
Goddamn,
he had
Baker.
around him.
Baker like he been drinking a little bit
More
after
commercials
a
than
little.
wins. Do you know what progressive?
Little joint.
He has 6 different commercials, and then you add a couple of.
This
more to
was
Heisman
crazy.
and something else. He's got about 8.
You cannot, like, every commercial had Baker in
He's
it.
got more commercials than wins.
He threw almost as many interceptions as
That is
touchdowns,
crazy.
And his quarterback rating took a massive dip. The blame for all of this went square on the shoulders of Freddie Kitchens.
Let's say they're an undisciplined team.
They just are. They lead the league in penalties.
The changes offensively resulted in a lot more sacks, penalties, less yards, and lower points per game. One
How
of the
did they
most telling moments
regress?
of the incompetency of Freddie Kitchens was he ran a draw play on 4th and 9. This colossal failure not only got Freddie Kitchens fired, but the team also parted ways with John Dorsey after just 2 seasons. A shocking rise and fall for the once beloved GM.
A familiar face officially joins the Browns in a new role. Today, the team introduced Andrew Berry as its new general manager. He previously worked with the Browns as VP of Player Personnel from 2016 to 2018 and said he is happy to be back in Cleveland.
Back in 2009, the college coach who was at Harvard, Tim Murphy, told the Harvard Crimson, quote, "For my 2 cents, he, as in Andrew Berry, will be running an NFL team in 15 years. At 37 years old, he'll be running an NFL franchise. I have no question." Well, Murphy was way off. It only took Berry 10 years. After working in
But
front
he
offices
still
for 2
predicted.
seasons, including for the Browns at one point, Jimmy Haslam hired the 32-year-old
That's
Andrew
one hell of
Berry
a prediction,
to run
by the
the
way.
show. And before he hired Berry, Haslam had already hired the Browns' next head coach, Kevin Stefanski. Stefanski spent
God,
years in Minnesota,
Stefanski.
most recently as their
My
offensive
boy.
coordinator in 2019. He had a great track record.
I like.
with
I don't know.
multiple
I like
quarterbacks.
his
The Browns
character.
felt like he could get Baker and the offense back on track. Unlike John Dorsey, Andrew Berry's player transactions were more low-key, which included solidifying the offensive line with signing Jack Conklin to play right tackle and drafting Jed Wills 10th overall to play left tackle. The offense became a West Coast-based scheme with a heavier emphasis on playing under center and utilizing play action for Baker, as opposed to the abysmal drop back and get sacked offense in 2019. But prior to the season, COVID happened, which had a major effect across the league. Teams had to do Zoom call meetings, limiting in-person time. It was a huge trial, especially for teams like the Browns, who had a whole new coaching staff and system that they were implementing. On opening day, it felt like 2020 was going to be much of the same as we saw in 2019. But the following week was the beginning of a new
it's
era,
the Ravens.
and something strange and unusual began to happen. Cleveland started to rock.
Allowed 155 to the Chargers. This one downfield. Beckham got him. Touchdown, Browns.
He's been effective for them at times, David. Haskins in trouble. That's a strip. Ball is out, and it's recovered by Myles Garrett.
Mayfield on a fake. Flip to Beckham. And he
I absolutely love this game right here. Do they got the full game of this? Cause I'm gonna have to watch it.
play clock down to 1. He's back to pass. And Myles Garrett's going to get him. And he knocks the ball away. It's another strip sack. Olivier Vernon trying to pick it up. And the Browns scoop in. And it's Ronnie Harrison. And here's John going the other way. Going into the end zone. Touchdown Browns. First TD of the game.
He's the release, but an on-target throw is intercepted by Sione Takitaki. Pick 6 to the house for the Browns.
Fake it. Mayfield sets the feet. He throws the deep ball. We've got separation. Downfield by himself. People Jones, goodbye.
Cleveland's season sent shockwaves throughout the NFL world. For the chance to make the playoffs, it all came down to a win and you're in scenario versus the Steelers in the final game of the regular season.
Did I watch this game?
Head to the Bowplex to experience the excitement of live hockey.
Successful vibe than what you've seen in the past from them?
Nah, I think they're still the same Browns team I play every year. I think they're nameless.
The infant. Oh my goodness. Oh, I ain't gonna lie. I picked on Juju for a little minute.
I don't know, like it's the Browns. It's the Browns. And that's just like one of those things that AFC North football, and they're a good team, but I'm just happy we're playing them again. This Sunday.
Just shut your mouth. Just give them their flowers and move on. Don't say nothing that's bulletin material. Please show the hit. Please show the hit on Juju. You got to show the hit. Damn, you didn't show the Juju hit.
Entire life, the Browns hadn't won a single playoff game. Not one. You have to go all the way back to 1994 to find the last time the Browns achieved
My entire life too.
the fact that it came
I
against
was
their
even
rival
born.
Pittsburgh, and with what Juju said, it just made it that much sweeter.
At Heinz Field, where the Browns have defeated the Steelers 48-37 and have advanced to the divisional round of the playoffs.
The following week,
This
the
was
Chiefs sent
shocking.
the Browns home after a Chad Henne scramble to clinch the game. But
Bruh, I was so pissed off,
the Browns had
man.
finally proven they could compete. This was the start of something special.
We're still proud of this team. You see the Browns here coming home to Cleveland Hopkins Airport after losing to the Chiefs yesterday, but fans still welcome them and thank them for a great season.
Baker Mayfield was one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the league. Nick Chubb was Nick Chubb. Myles Garrett bounced back from his disgraceful 2019 exit and dominated
Yeah.
in 2020.
He did a
simply
great
one of the
job
best
of coming
players
back.
in the NFL. Cleveland had everything you could want in a franchise. A young
Still
nucleus
don't
of
accept,
proven
you know,
talent
what he said,
with
but
a competent
of
head
what he
coach.
did,
They
obviously,
couldn't
but
possibly
you know,
mess this up, right?
he did a good job coming back.
The story today is Cleveland's going to probably have to move Odell Beckham. We've been saying this for 2 years. He's brittle, he's expensive, he's a star, he doesn't fit in Cleveland, and Baker Mayfield was clearly, data proves it, no debate, better without him.
During the 2020 season, when Odell was playing, although he had a few splash plays early, Odell's season had mostly been disappointing. He had been on pace to finish under 1,000 yards. Then, in Game 7, he tore his ACL. Not only did the Browns keep winning without him, but their pass game actually improved. This led to a particular narrative that gained steam. Did OBJ make the Browns worse? This was a regular discussion amongst fans and the media, and was one of the bigger talking points prior to the 2021 season. Of course, during the 2020 run, many Browns fans were simply enjoying the ride to the end.
Once the laughing stock of the NFL, now our Cleveland Brownies, now a trending pick for a Super Bowl
Did
win.
he
this
say
year.
Cleveland
11-6 for Sean,
Brownies?
12-5 for me.
The Cleveland Browns are a legitimate bona fide threat.
All the way, baby. We're going all the way. We got Baker, the touchdown maker. We got Nick Chubb. We're just going all the way. That's it.
Seemingly every
Gotta love the
upcoming
support though,
season.
man.
The Browns began
That's what you
2021
gotta do.
as one of the betting favorites to win the Super Bowl. They had all their key players returning, plus the addition of key free agents, namely Jadeveon Clowney. If the team in 2019 was a hype beast built off nothing but potential, the 2021 team had actual substance, since they were coming off a season where they had just won a playoff game. The first contest of the season saw Cleveland looking to get their revenge on the Chiefs, and early on, it appeared as if the Browns were going to win. But after a few botched plays, they threw it all away, and the Chiefs won.
Absolutely
Despite the loss,
sold
Browns
the
fans
bag.
were still excited for what was to come. The team would rattle off 3 straight wins, including a career moment for Myles Garrett, where he had 4.5 sacks and terrorized Justin Fields all game. The Browns defense that day held the Bears to 47 yards, the fewest
47
46.
in the whole game?
During this stretch, Baker.
You can't even do that in Madden, bro.
On the interception,
That is
the
crazy.
return is coming back. I think it's Justin Reed. Baker Mayfield tries to make the tackle.
After this sequence, Baker was clearly hurt and continued to play through it. And after a few weeks, the initial shoulder injury was made worse.
Baker is still down. He's playing with that sore left shoulder, partially torn labrum, and he landed right on it.
Baker, tough as nails, found a way to fight through the issue and continue to play. But at some point, fans began to wonder if Baker's toughness was doing more harm than good.
It was definitely doing more harm.
Protection, and he overshoots his intended receiver.
After
He
they
should
lost to
not have been
Pittsburgh on
playing.
Halloween, it had become painfully clear that something was off. The offense had been anemic in 4 of the last 5 games. And a lot of
sometimes you gotta
fall back
stop.
on
You
Baker
guys.
and the effect
Sometimes
his injury
somebody
was
gotta
having
step
on him.
up and
On
tell
this
you
day,
just
Odell had just
sit
one
down.
catch for 6 yards, as the Browns failed to do much of anything offensively in the second half. This moment right here, I remember thinking how Baker just got a critical first down to keep the drive alive late in the game and was hyped, and Odell just sort of looked uninterested. I may have read too much into this at the time, but something just felt off. Well, in some sense, something was
Odell's about to
definitely
get a knockout. Boy, Baker, stay right there, boy.
Not a dull day by any stretch of the imagination. Odell Beckham's dad's Instagram account posted this saying that Odell is open.
The video that Odell's father promoted sent shockwaves throughout the NFL world.
A great follow on Instagram, I am just learning. Granted, the video he posted that we were going to talk about was sideways and wrong.
If his dad is posting that, it indicates that perhaps Odell would have been fine with a trade, would have welcomed a trade.
There's no way Baker is deliberately trying to sabotage Odell. Baker's trying to get a $180 million contract, $400 million contract. You think he wants to look bad?
The original 11-minute video showcased time and time again Odell getting open, and Baker either not seeing him or for some reason not wanting to throw to him. The video was alarming and really painted Baker as the villain. The hashtag FreeOBJ went viral, and even LeBron James endorsed it. Something had been off for a while. Odell did make plays from time to time, but there always felt like some sort of disconnect. It always felt like Baker would hit everyone else but then miss when he threw to Odell, or Odell would drop a wide open pass. The relationship between Odell
Oh,
and
but you ain't
Baker,
showed those
Odell and
highlights,
the
huh,
team,
Dad?
Odell and the city had been on the ropes for a while, and this moment with his dad was the breaking point. The day after the video dropped, Odell was excused from Browns practice.
If you were the guy running the show there, if you were sitting in the chair that Andrew Barry is sitting in right now, what are you doing?
I'm releasing him. As simple as that.
2 days after that, the Browns officially announced they were going to release Odell.
I think
That's the only thing that's the only thing you can do.
Beckham Jr. needing to be the guy. I don't think that's what he feels. He just needs to feel like an active, productive part of something that's working.
And 9 days after the video was promoted by Odell's father, OBJ was officially an LA Ram. He played 29 games in Cleveland.
He did
and
get a
although
Super
he did have
Bowl
some
though.
spectacular moments.
And in the Super Bowl, I ain't gonna lie, he was bald
His time
before
with the
he
Browns
before he
can
got
be best
injured.
characterized
Unfortunate.
as distracting and
Fortunately.
disappointing. Although, in fairness to Odell, many of his former teammates really liked him. Also, it didn't help the Browns' case when he started balling out with the Rams.
Here's one for Beckham. Got him.
It felt Monday as I watched him, I thought, it's one thing to be Stephon Diggs and go from productive to super productive. It's another to go from not remotely productive to really quickly productive. The optics are bad to me.
As Odell was thriving in his new home, back in Cleveland, the pass game continued lacking, and the losses continued stacking. Baker, over his final 6 starts of the season, looked like the worst quarterback in the NFL, a shell of himself. He averaged less than 200 yards a game, barely completed half his throws, and threw more interceptions than touchdowns. The Browns finished 2021 with an 8-9 record. Outside of Nick Chubb, who continued to be one of the best backs in the NFL, the offense regressed. Myles Garrett had another dominant season, earning first-team All-Pro honors again with 16 sacks. At times, it felt like he single-handedly won games for them. I also can't forget to mention how great Denzel Ward was. He was named to his 2nd career Pro Bowl. Again, there was talent on this team that was constantly proving itself. Fans knew this and looked for someone to blame, and the main targets were Kevin Stefanski and Baker Mayfield. Although there were plenty who didn't like the way Stefanski did things,
Baker Mayfield was brought to Cleveland to run an offense that's high tempo, where you just kind of get out there and sling it. Now, you know, you're running a Kevin Stefanski offense that doesn't ask that doesn't want that.
the organization clearly favored him over Baker. 2020 felt like a distant memory. Us Browns fans went from thinking that we had found our franchise quarterback and were going to be competing for Super Bowls to debating whether or not we should let Baker go. 2 basic camps emerged: the pro-Baker and anti-Baker crowd. The pro-Baker camp argued he ignited the spark that helped turn this team around. He was definitely the best quarterback the Browns had had since 1999. So how could you let him walk?
That's not saying
We saw him
much,
set
but it
rookie
is true.
touchdown records and play at a top 10 level in 2020. So who's to say that he wouldn't get back to that when he was healthy? The anti-Baker camp argued that while Baker did play well at times, he was wildly inconsistent game to game and year to year. Throughout his time in Cleveland, the team had arguably the best rush offense in the NFL and the best interior offensive line in the NFL. Whenever the offense had to rely on him to make plays, instead of complementing the run game, it usually went poorly, especially against good teams. 2020 was more of a great system rather than a great season by Baker. Any average NFL quarterback could have been plugged into that system and done good enough. Again, just to clarify, that was the argument made against him. Clearly, these types of debates weren't just happening amongst fans and media. The front office thought the same way, as they had plenty of time to sign Baker to an extension throughout 2021, and they didn't.
It's a trust issue. As the leagues become more quarterback-centric and more pass-happy, Baker's averaged fewer pass attempts every year of his career. They don't want Baker throwing the ball.
Also, the logistics continued to look bad for Baker when OBJ continued to thrive. Not only did he put up better numbers in LA, but he also caught a touchdown in the Super Bowl.
Going to the end zone, reaching up and making the grab.
Damn, the Bengals should have won this.
He did tear his ACL in that game, but still, there was a lot of evidence that was going against Baker.
The average age of Baker Mayfield's peers in the AFC is 26, and on average, they all better.
The Browns front office began to explore other options. For free agency,
Facts.
There was nothing special, and it was considered a weak draft class for quarterback. But in the trade market, there was some rare opportunities that were on the table. 3 franchise quarterbacks, all very successful in their careers, were looking for trades. Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, and the man the Browns could have drafted all the way back in 2017, but didn't.
That is a crazy
Rodgers ended up staying with the Packers,
thing to
and
think
Wilson
about.
didn't want to go to Cleveland. But with Watson, there was a small chance the Browns could land him. For over a year, the potential of Deshaun Watson
He
being traded
got
by the Texans
paid,
floated out there.
but we know what he did with his
hadn't been
money
linked to the
though.
Browns throughout 2021, but after the way Baker played, and considering Watson had made 3 straight Pro Bowls in his career, why wouldn't the Browns go try and get him? Well, there was a serious issue.
The NFL is now investigating accusations against Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson. 3 massage therapists have now filed
Just
civil lawsuits
disgusting.
alleging assault.
All filed by women who accuse Watson of lewd, inappropriate conduct during personal massages.
For over a year, Deshaun Watson was at the forefront of one of the worst sports-related scandals of my lifetime. The reports were graphic and disturbing.
And
The red
every
flags here
day
were so
it was
large,
coming
you
out
could
with
see them if they were
information.
planted on the moon.
More
But taking
people,
risks and
more
shady individuals and
females
practices
were
were
coming out.
nothing new to NFL
I had never
quarterbacks,
seen anything like it
especially
before.
Jimmy Haslam. So the
In the
Browns
sports
threw their hat in
world,
the
at
ring,
least.
and in the process, destroyed their relationship with Baker Mayfield.
QB Baker Mayfield has requested a trade per sources. Cleveland has been hoping to move forward after its Deshaun Watson pursuit and offered to fly to Texas to meet with Baker Mayfield. But from the QB's perspective, the bridge is burned, and it's time to move on now.
He didn't go to them and recommend a trade. They say, we want Deshaun Watson, and we'll get you up and we'll put you in the trade.
This was quite a blow to the Browns at the time, considering Watson had ruled out Cleveland and narrowed his choices to the Falcons and Saints. But in a stunning act, one day after Baker's trade request, Jimmy Haslam made an offer Watson couldn't refuse.
We've been waiting for days to find out where Deshaun Watson is headed. I bring in Ian Rappaport, NFL Network insider. Ian, where is Deshaun going next?
We put more time, more thought, more effort on this decision than any other decision we've made with the Cleveland Browns. It's not something we took lightly, it's something we took very seriously, and we feel comfortable with the process we've been through.
A 5-year, $230 million contract fully guaranteed. That was $80 million more than the previous record.
That-
And not just that, but they
It was 80 million more.
of draft capital.
Tell me, what did we give up?
A number 1 pick this year,
And?
first round pick next year, and the year after that.
Sonny, that's our future.
After Watson accepted this was such a massive
That's your
gamble.
future,
It was
future,
like betting your
future.
life savings
God.
on red. The reaction from Browns fans were mixed.
The way we work here in Cleveland, man, he comes here and wins, it's all going to be great. If he doesn't, everybody's going to look at it as a big mistake.
Although it did appear that the
Or
team
if
had a
he
better
just
quarterback,
plays like how
the divisiveness
Cleveland has
amongst
played
the
for
fans
quite some
remained.
time, you should be used to it.
One of the most shocking comments in all of this drama was that the Browns wanted to move on from Baker because they wanted, quote, an adult at quarterback. Jimmy Haslam later denied this allegation, but that's what was reported at the time.
That definitely
Whatever
sounds
is
like
true from
something
what got reported,
the Browns would say.
I think it rubbed Jimmy Haslam the wrong way, and it prompted Jimmy to feel like he can go over the top with the money because he was just kind of tired of the whole situation.
A few months later, in July, the Browns traded Baker Mayfield to the Panthers for a 5th-round pick. The guy who was once anointed the savior of Cleveland had been given up for peanuts. Another prominent figure that departed Cleveland was Jarvis Landry. Jarvis had been a popular player and served a critical role in the rebuild. For better or worse, the Browns had moved away from their vocal offensive leaders that had rebuilt them, in exchange for hopefully a more talented crew. However, here's another thing about Watson. Not only was this a major gamble, but the team basically punted the 2022 season due to his looming suspension.
I've always stood on my innocence and always said that I've never assaulted anyone or disrespected anyone, and I'm continuing to stand on that.
They suspected there would be a suspension around 6 games, but it ended up being 11.
I understand that you are innocent until proven guilty, but when he goes to arbitration and the findings from Sue L. Robinson, those are binding. And to me, at a minimum, Deshaun Watson should have been suspended for a season, and that's still not a win for the NFL.
What doesn't this game have, right, Isabel? We've been counting down to this matchup for quite some time now between the Browns and their former quarterback, Baker Mayfield, and the Carolina Panthers.
Obviously, there's a lot of attachment there. I'm not going to, like I told you guys before, I'm not going to sit here and be a robot and say that it doesn't mean anything. It will. If I wasn't wanting to win, then there would be a really big issue.
York to try to win the game. The kick. Oh, look at this. There's the distance. And Cade York wins it for Cleveland.
My LSU brethren, but
The Browns
damn, I
began
wanted Baker to
2022
win this one.
beating their former quarterback in dramatic fashion. However, the good times this season were few and far between.
We continue to follow the car crash involving Browns player Myles Garrett. And tonight we have brand new body camera video showing the immediate aftermath of when first responders arrived on scene in Wellington.
Just 3 weeks into the 2022 season, Myles Garrett avoided tragedy when his car went off the side of the road and flipped. Luckily, he and the female passenger walked
Why do
away
I
with
remember this?
non-life-threatening injuries. Garrett was not under the influence of any drugs or alcohol. Remarkably, he only missed 1 game.
I feel good. I feel like I'm ready. I'm back to make a difference and change this game when I'm in it.
And returned to all-pro form right away. He went on to finish with 16 sacks and was named a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. But for the most part, the Browns' defense in 2022 was atrocious. Oddly enough, the Browns' offense was better with placeholder starter Jacoby Brissett in 2022 than it was with Baker Mayfield in 2021. But this offense couldn't overcome their defensive woes. When Deshaun Watson was slotted to make his first start, the team was a long shot to make the playoffs with a 4-7 record.
I'm excited to be back around my teammates.
Watson faking to Chubb to the
Damn,
end zone.
against his former team.
Offensively, it was a rough first game for Deshaun Watson, who truly looked like a guy who hasn't played in an NFL regular season game in 700 days.
Over the 6 games Deshaun Watson started, he was not good. Actually pretty terrible.
At
This
all.
was easy to dismiss
He
at
was
the time
trash.
because He didn't play in 2021.
Atrocious. Whatever other word you want to use for trash, he was at.
Overall, 2022 was a wasted year. There were some positives to point out, like Nick Chubb being excellent.
I mean, Nick Chubb was
David
being
Njoku
Nick Chubb.
starting to become a baller at tight end, and the newly acquired Amari Cooper proving that he was still
Yeah,
a level
cool.
receiver. Defensively, they had to start fresh, and they fired defensive coordinator Joe Woods. Despite this wasted season, Browns fans looked forward to 2023. They were hoping this was going to be the season that was going to make all this drama the team had been involved with worth it.
Shit. Hey, nah, bruh. You gotta give it to the females, bro. What the hell's you doing?
To announce Coach
Probably
Schwartz.
drunk.
The floor is Coach Schwartz's now. First question. Check. I guess that's it. Good night.
Through the opening 9 games of 2023, The Browns' season was anything but normal. Week 1, the defense was historically dominant, limiting Joe Burrow to 82 passing yards. The team found a way to win, despite a poor performance by Deshaun Watson. Week 2, the defense once again gave an A+ effort, but Watson had 3 turnovers, 2 of which were returned for touchdowns. However, the most devastating part of this game was Nick Chubb's injury. It was so bad that some thought his career would be over.
Chubb getting injured is...
This hurt me right here.
We're not going to show it.
Week 3, the team finally gave a great effort on both sides of the ball, but apparently Watson suffered a shoulder injury that caused him to miss the 4th game. But at the time, no one really knew what was going on. He was listed to start week 4 until right before the game. In his absence, they got destroyed. Week 5, as huge underdogs against the 5-0 Niners, the Browns miraculously won with their elevated practice squad quarterback PJ Walker. Week 6, Watson returned for 5 passes. After leaving the game, Myles Garrett single-handedly dominated the Colts in a Hall of Fame level performance. Afterwards, Watson said he didn't play the rest of the game due to his shoulder. Quote, "At the end of the day, it wasn't right." This raised alarms because if his throwing shoulder was an issue, why was he even out there to begin with? Week 7, PJ Walker had to start once again, and the team suffered because of it. Week 8, Watson returned, but this game was all about the Browns' defense, who was beginning to solidify itself as one of the best defenses in recent memory. They held Clayton Tune to 17 passing yards in a 27-0
I don't even know who
victory.
Clayton Tune is.
And lastly,
I ain't never
week
heard his
9,
name before.
Watson put together an amazing second half in a thrilling come-from-behind victory against the Ravens. This was his best performance in a Cleveland uniform. However, any excitement felt from this moment soon vanished.
Here's the news.
Yeah.
The Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson will undergo season-ending surgery on a broken bone in his throwing shoulder.
In a bizarre 9-game stretch, Watson had gone in and out of the lineup multiple times, and despite starting 3 separate quarterbacks, the team was amazingly 6-3, mostly due to their historically dominant defense. But a lot of these wins felt lucky and unsustainable. Now, with no clear answer at quarterback, surely the Browns were going to fall off. And after Watson's injury, they had to go get yet another quarterback.
Before we get to the game, a little bit of news before we started recording. It is official. The Browns are going to sign Joe Flacco to their practice squad.
What do you think you got left?
Joe Magic.
I definitely believe I can still play.
The Browns signed Joe Flacco off the couch.
That don't look like a real
The
photo.
38-year-old free agent had gone unsigned in 2023 and had spent the last few months as a stay-at-home dad, throwing the football around to his kids from time to time. Years back, this dude had terrorized the Browns as the Ravens starter. But after being replaced by
Terrorized everybody in the damn
2018,
playoff.
Flacco became a forgettable journeyman. When
It's a
no one
different
wanted him in
dude.
2023,
His
Flacco's
playoff-
career was seemingly over. It was going to take
One moment. Joe Flacco, back then, his playoff run is a Hall of Fame career. Like that's a Hall of Fame type of career. Like that run that he went on in the postseason. He was different. It was just like, I don't know how to describe. I've never seen anything like it before. Just
a
different.
total quarterback fiasco for a team to give this old man a call. And that's just what happened in Cleveland. Then, after DTR suffered a concussion in their next game, Flacco was immediately promoted to the starter. Given the circumstances, Flacco did fine in his first game, but what took place over the next few weeks could be described as electric.
That's why they call me Baltimore Raven. Here's Flacco looking downfield, open.
Oh my gosh!
Take the handoff, Flacco, deep shot on first down, looking for the big play, and it's caught by Cooper. Second down and 12. Flacco looks, Flacco end zone, touchdown.
Like I said, that Flacco magic, man.
The Joe Flacco songs, as we've termed it here, is unbelievable.
What is up with these nicknames?
There's rush 4. Flacco.
Who are making these nicknames up? Seriously.
Deep, looking for Cooper on the sidelines. Amari Cooper.
Joe Flacco, let's face it, he's been everything for us since he got here.
Flacco, he taking us to the promised land. That's it. Oh, I'm so happy the Browns are going to the playoffs.
Joe Flacco.
Hey, I wish we would have paid
He off his
that
ass
Deshaun
for
Watson
sure.
money to Joe Flacco. I feel like he deserves it, honestly.
That's the wideout to look for, and Flacco almost gets sacked.
Damn, he got hit in his face and still.
You are yawning, okay? Past bedtime. I understand you're old.
Way past bedtime, yeah.
And the AP Comeback Player of the Year, presented by PG, is Joe Flacco.
Well deserved, man. Well fucking deserved.
When you take into account the state of the Browns offense prior to his arrival, and the fact that no one signed this dude, not even to a practice squad, what Joe Flacco had pulled off was one of the greatest stories in recent sports history. He was so good during his 5-game stretch with the Browns that they easily clinched a playoff spot, and the team was able to rest key starters, including Flacco, for the final week of the season.
That's still crazy to even hear. I cried night, please win.
Needed moment to rally around, a brief feeling of football ecstasy.
Joe Flacco, that was as much excitement as I've ever seen out of you coming over and saying, wow.
Listen, I wish I was better with my words, but it's unbelievable.
Now, obviously, you can't give all the credit to Flacco. The defense heavily carried this team throughout the first 9
Facts.
games, which resulted in Myles Garrett winning Defensive Player of the Year. Also,
absolutely deserved, man.
Quarterbacks and still won 11 games.
God, he had won that one.
Stefanski won Head Coach of the Year.
Which team was going to play harder?
Well deserved as well.
Right here. That question
I was really rooting for this team.
And for what the defense did, Jim Schwartz won Coordinator of the Year. It was truly a magical season. Oh, and here's another wild aspect of the story. Baker Mayfield, now the Tampa Bay Bucks quarterback, was also a finalist for NFL Comeback Player of the Year. Imagine telling a Browns fan after winning that playoff game a few years back that Baker
I did
Mayfield
not
was
know
gonna be a
that.
Comeback Player of the
I
Year,
mean,
but he would
now
lose to
thinking
Joe
about it,
Flacco,
obviously,
who's
but
now your quarterback. It's just mind-blowing. Well, I'd
the
love to
full
end things here,
circledness of
'cause
this
was
video
about
is
as good as things
incredible.
got. The truth is, as much fun as this Flacco experience was, there was a downside. His gunslinger mentality had led to a boatload of interceptions. He was able to do more good
That's
than
the pros
bad
and
during the regular
cons.
season, but it all caught up to him in the postseason when he threw 2 devastating pick sixes in a blowout loss to Houston. That
I
playoff
watched this
was
game
so
live.
big
I think I reacted
because
to this as
just
well.
like that, it was all over. Not just the season, but also the Joe Flacco experience in Cleveland.
Last season, Joe Flacco came off the bench and led the Cleveland Browns to the playoffs. And now he's stepping into the backup role with the Colts. The 39-year-old is ready to go.
Flacco had a different kind of approach. He had a lot of experience. He had that big arm, and he got the Browns down the field in a hurry and usually into the end zone. So the situation does seem to be kind of a public opinion situation. Deshaun Watson's going to be coming back in year 3 of a historic, huge contract that is of great debate if it's worth the price that the Browns have paid. And he's coming back, and the Browns really need this to work.
For the Deshaun Watson era in Cleveland, it was now or never. 2 years had gone by, and not only had he missed 2/3 of the team's games, but he hadn't even been the best quarterback on the roster. Baker Mayfield was now a Pro Bowler in Tampa. Joe Flacco had won Comeback Player of the Year, and they got rid of him. Considering Watson's reputation off the field, in addition to not living up to expectations for what he was paid, let's just say the patience of the fans was gone.
Watson is coming off a historically bad outing in the season opener against the Cowboys. Posting a Week 1 league worst QB rating of 9.3.
And there goes Watson.
I'm not surprised.
It's 3 hours of complete misery on Sunday.
Broke the news last night at 6. Deshaun Watson.
You stayed the whole
facing
3
another
hours?
sexual
Dang.
assault lawsuit.
That's commitment right there. That's a true fan.
And then everything just changes and eventually ends in disappointment.
3rd down and 10. Watson surrounded by Giants. Down he goes. Their 6th sack today.
More pressure coming. Wilkins right up the middle.
Climbing the pocket. Now he breaks left. He gets hit. And the ball's out.
Deshaun Watson is awful. It's so awful that if somebody wanted to arrest him for being awful, I would accept it.
Browns just look like a shit show every week, and it's not getting any better. Both just the body language on the field, and then obviously the result at the end of the game.
It just feels like when you watch him, everything's a battle. Like nothing really comes easy.
Yet to try to get the ball to Judy.
Watson just stumbled, and now Watson is hurt. Oh boy, immediately clutches at his right ankle.
Deshaun Watson's season is over. I think the biggest story coming out of Cleveland was the cheers when Deshaun Watson was being carted off of the field.
He ain't even take a step yet.
That's some bullshit.
No, yeah.
I don't like that.
That's some bullshit. As fans, to boo anyone and their downfall, and we should be ashamed of ourselves.
Man, it sucks to be a Browns fan.
Terrible.
I mean, their entire team decided to take a heel turn yesterday in press conferences.
But I am very upset with the reaction to a man that has had the world against him for the past 4 years, and he put his body and life on the line for this city.
Whoa, let's reel that in a bit, Jameis. He puts his life on the line for the city? He's not storming the beach at Normandy. He's throwing slant passes against the Bengals.
That one should have had a little awareness with the way it was all kind of going down. Highest guaranteed contract in history. Everything else, and team stinks. And then it happens. It's like, obviously never want anybody to cheer on injuries. That is terrible. It's obviously another human.
The post-Achilles tear Deshaun Watson drama had clearly reached a boiling point. The relationship between all parties involved was getting worse, especially the one between Miles and the fans. The turbulent 2024 season for the Browns continued to spiral, and they went on to finish the season with a devastating 3-14 record. So now it's 2025, and the Browns are clearly at a crossroads when it comes to the quarterback situation. The Deshaun Watson trade will go down as the worst trade in NFL history. Not only did it crush
I
the
still can't
potential of a
believe
spectacular roster,
they paid
but it also
him
made the
that
Browns go
much
from one of
money.
the most beloved teams to the most hated. Throughout my time making this video, it appeared as if Myles Garrett was done with the team after all the drama he had endured over the last 8 seasons. But, like they say, money talks. I'm happy that he's still on the team because of how special he is as a player, but things have been weird lately, and it's hard not to look back at the 2020 Browns and think, man, how did we let this opportunity slip away? As a hopeful Browns fan who's trying to remain optimistic when it's really difficult to, I'll continue repeating the phrase we all tell ourselves to cope. There's always next year.
I mean, the Cowboys code. Man, oh man, this phenomenal video. Once again, the whole style, the whole intro, like the old school intro, and man, this is a great one. It's a long one, not gonna lie to you. Your boy did yawn a little bit. So I'ma leave out on this one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this reaction. Love you guys and see you guys in the next one.